It is absolutely maddening to listen to the theist debates, but I'm hooked. I'm listening to BibleThumpingWingnut with James from 3rd Street Promenade crew, and Matthew 4:19. Anyway, they've got an atheist, Len, or not Len, that's Matthew. Whit, I think it's Whit, has been on there for 2+ hours, going around and around, and I guess his claim is that explaining this problem of evil and giving a transcendent grounding to the concept of good and evil, it's easy. It's easy. He could solve it in a minute. And he just finally got to giving his viewpoint on it, which he had said previously. And he bases it all on his subjective emotions. But then when James tries to say, well, then it's relative. No, it's not relative because it's objectively true that I have emotions or something to that effect. Bottom line is, as I've heard these debates, many of them, and the absolute inability of the atheists to grasp the concept of objective truth, I'm thinking that one of the primary curses of the fall, the noetic effects from the fall, the curse is being pathologically narcissistic or pathologically subjective, to where there just seems to be almost like a physical, mental inability to comprehend the concept of objective truth. I mean, they just can't see it, can't comprehend it. And I think this is what it means when the scales fall from your eyes. Once you're born again, your eyes open up and you can actually start seeing objective truth, because all of these guys are just caught in this world of subjectivity, and they cannot get out of it. They can't see anything objective, and they will come up with 1,000,001 convoluted philosophies and combinations of Kant and Hume and Aristotle and Plato, and then they've always got their new twist. They've done a little better than Plato, a little better than Aristotle. They've figured it out finally, and yeah, it's just a bunch of gibberish when you break it all down to. Basically, all they ever say is, "Oh, I'm right. I'm subjectively right. That is objective truth," and they can't escape out of this narcissistic bubble. And I'm thinking that's the curse. That's a big part of the curse, if not the curse, is the inability to comprehend objectivity and realizing that there has to be an objective grounding for there to be good and evil, and comprehending it. And then what I always want to ask is, okay, let's say your pet theory is the one. How would you? I would take it the next step further, because this is where I think it shows the absurdity of it. How would you set up a society or a legal system, a constitution, based on that idea of what is true and what is good, what is evil? Because it still all boils down to subjective preferences. All you can ever say is, well, I prefer that rape is wrong. I prefer that pedophilia is bad because it harms people. And then when you say, well, who defines harm? And well, it's physical pain. Well, sometimes physical pain is a good thing. Physical pain alerts you to maybe problems in your body. it keeps you from killing yourself because you avoid things that kill you. So pain is not necessarily, it can't be the standard that all pain is evil, and so that's what we'll call evil, or suffering. Suffering is evil. Well, suffering is, from a transcendent point of view, suffering is actually very important. If it weren't for suffering, we wouldn't seek God, and we wouldn't seek answers beyond our present condition. Suffering is a motivator a lot of times, and to reach higher, to look deeper. But anyway, bottom line is, it just is astounding, and I listen to these guys go on for hours and hours. It always comes down to the same issue, and it is this strange inability to comprehend objective truth. I mean, they can't see it as a concept. They can't break out of this bubble, this narcissistic, self-referential, I am the only reality bubble. And I say, well, if that's your grounding for what morality or what's good and evil, I mean, what does a society, what does a world look like based on that? And we're actually seeing it, and what ends up happening is you just have tribes that think one way subjectively. They've agreed on a certain subjective standard versus another tribe or another country, another group, and that always leads to totalitarianism and tyranny, as one group has decided their subjective interpretation should be preeminent, because self-interest is all that guides. There's no well, it's astounding to watch this debate go on. But I can't get enough of it. I love to listen to these guys, and for hours and hours, which I have. But that's the one thing that really strikes me, is that just the absolute inability, as I repeat it for the third or fourth time, to grasp objective truth. They just refuse to see it, and they can't see it, and that weighs in with me on the side of God's sovereignty, because I don't think you can see it unless God opens your eyes and the scales are drawn away. You won't see it. You'll think you're seeing things. You think you're seeing truth, or you think you've got it figured out, but you either see it or you don't. And man, it doesn't matter how well the arguments go, and how on the absolutist side, and how horrific and self-contradictory and inconsistent the arguments on the atheistic side, relativistic side, and they'll try to argue, no, this guy is a real piece of work, where he says it's both subjectively and objectively true. That emotion is what is his emotion, not just emotion, but his emotion is the basis for what is good or evil. Well, yeah. It's a wonder. And it seems that the atheists don't seem to be able to see their own presuppositions. The Christians will admit to their presupposition, lay it right out there, and they ground themselves in it, and which is God. And but the atheists seem to not have some inability to recognize their own presuppositions, and they just assert them as if they were the base foundation, the ground for truth, all the while denying that they have such a presupposition. It's a fascinating phenomenon. And then I listened to on one of the other shows, BibleThumpingWingnut with Dustin Segers, and Suicide Celluloid, atheist, and the guy talked for it was close to 3 hours. In the most convoluted mishmash. made some type of internal, consistent, logical sense to himself. But if you were listening, it just sounded ludicrous, really. But he spent 3 hours, and he finally got to the point where he has this whole thing about symmetry and asymmetry as being the grounding, that how he grounds morality. It would take 3 hours to explain it. But it ended up, when he started running into some contradictions in his own philosophy, he said, well, you know, that at a certain point you do start stacking symmetries, and that can get a little problematic. That's where he ended up, was stacking symmetries, and how, you know, that's a little difficult. And Dustin said, dude, why don't you just repent and believe in Jesus, and it's pretty simple, you know. You got your 10 commandments and right and wrong, and a child could understand it. But no, these guys want to go off, you know, on these excursions, and it's all to just avoid surrendering to God. It's king me. It's self-idolatry and fascination with their own minds, and just kind of a mental masturbation. Sorry, but that's what it seems to be. And just repent, dude. Just repent. And what's funny is that's the truth, and that is the answer. And it's so simple, but hard to do when you're lost in the narcissistic, self-idolizing, self-relevant, self-relative, subjective bubble of foolishness. It reminds me of when I was deep into Vedic Hindu philosophy, Advaita, Vedanta, akin to Shankara, Patanjali, Ramakrishna, a little bit of Vivekananda, and more. But getting into the meditation